Global institutions have commended South Africa for detecting the Omicron variant. It was done through collaborative efforts with laboratories and the network for genomic surveillance in the country. But what does this discovery really mean for South Africa in the fight against COVID-19? Well, Brand SA has issued a statement saying South African scientists have to be applauded. And on Brand SA's behalf, I'm joined now by Stavros Nicolaou, who also happens to work for Aspen Pharmacare, joining us now via Zoom. Mr. Nicolaou, wearing your Brand SA hat here this afternoon on eNCA. And thank you very much, by the way, for the time. I mean, we've been through a number of days where people were saying, but why are we being punished or penalized by the rest of the world when our scientists have done a great, excellent work here? But reputationally, many people have been looking at us maybe with different eyes now.
Dan, firstly, thanks very much for having me. This is an exceedingly important discussion because sometimes you become the victim of your own success. There's a number of things and areas where South Africa has led, both scientifically and medically, in this pandemic. Just very top line, some of these are, we're the only emerging market that's conducted clinical trial arms for the Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, and AstraZeneca studies. We have the largest, or conducted the largest phase 3B implementation study. That's the eNCA study. We're the only country on the continent in the Southern Hemisphere that's producing a vaccine for continental and Southern Hemisphere markets. And of course, what you're referring to is we are also highly advanced when it comes to genomic sequencing and surveilling. So South Africa has excelled during this pandemic. And unfortunately, at times, you are the victim of your own success. I think what we do need to do, of course, is when we have these discoveries, and it looks like we were the first to identify the Omicron variant, it certainly existed prior to us identifying it, incidentally, in this country and other geographies. What we need to do, I think, is be a lot more lucid and clear around our communication when we do identify these scientific breakthroughs.
Do you think we got it wrong this time in terms of communication?
Well, I think firstly, the United Kingdom and Europe were the first to react. I think these were largely knee-jerk reactions, in my opinion. What would have been a lot more conducive is for the UK, I mean, we are trusted partners of the United Kingdom. It would have been better before any announcements were made that there was a bilateral discussion held. We still might have arrived at the same endpoint. But what is undeserving of our country is that we seem to be labeled as the triggers or the initiators of the Omicron variant, and that is not necessarily the case. So I think on both sides there could have been better communication, and I hope many good lessons have been learned yet again on this occasion, and that futuristically we will tackle these breakthroughs in a very different and more direct way.
And Brand SA itself, I mean, reputationally, because now we can't fly to various destinations, including the much-loved December holiday destination by South Africans, Mauritius.
Look, we are an economy that is quite dependent on tourism. We have a fantastic tourism destination. That's why everyone wants to come to our country, right? I think there's in a way, an element that has enhanced our reputation because it has yet again placed South Africa's scientific prowess at the forefront. And I think it is those elements that we need to build on futuristically. You know, markets, investors want confidence. They're only going to come and invest where there is competency, there's skills, and there's scientific capability. And I think we've demonstrated that. But the downside, of course, has been now that there is a punitive reaction towards, in particular, our tourism and hospitality industry. I'm not saying we would not have arrived at the same point.
Yeah, but we can't control how people then react or respond when we put out our scientific prowess. But you've said one of the lessons, Mr. Nicolaou, is that maybe we should have handled it better communication-wise, and all sides involved could have approached it with a different strategy in terms of informing the world about Omicron. Very briefly, what else in your mind from a brand as a perspective, because we've got this wonderful country, as you've said, beautiful country from a touristic perspective as well. What other lessons can we take out of this recent experience so that we avoid them in future in case our scientists again discover something else that the world needs to hear about?
Dan, look, we can't hide things. And I mean, we're also being punished to a degree because of our transparency here, right? And neither do we want us to be a country that hides things and waits on developments, conveniently waits for them, right? So I think that's a big plus. What can we do differently? I think we need a more comprehensive, integrated communication strategy when these things that potentially hold a reputational risk, when they manifest. I think we need better communication. That's the lesson here. But let me just re-emphasize what I was saying again earlier, is we have a wonderful country, wonderful opportunity, great tourism industry. And, you know, our scientists have really, are held in high esteem globally. And these are the things we need to build on as a country. So it's not all doom and gloom. I know we're going into a very difficult summer period. But my final message here is the best way to stop the transmission of the virus and prevent these variants is to vaccinate as many people as quickly as possible. And that's where we need to place focus and attention on mandatory vaccinations and restricted access for those that have not been vaccinated, as many other countries are doing in the world. That in itself will breed a message of confidence.